the repatriation of funds that the government says is being illegally held outside the country. Farai Mwakutuya joins us now live from the capital there, Harare. Farai, explain this to us. Under Zimbabwean law, why is it illegal for individuals or companies to decide to hold part or all of their holdings outside the country, especially given lackluster local growth and the local cash crunch in the banking sector?
Well, Rama, you do make a good point there, but the list of companies, those three categories, number one, where a company exports, the receipts and the proceeds of that export must be repatriated and brought back to Zimbabwe. That is what the exchange control regulations say. And so where that hasn't happened, it is a violation of that requirement and that law. The second, category is where there have been fictitious imports, for instance. We know that, there's a challenge in terms of accessing foreign currency, and so it's being handed out or being distributed on a priority basis, where companies then allocated funds and doesn't use it for the required purpose or the purpose for which it applied. Then that also is in violation of the requirements. And the last point speaks to the fact that funds are being moved without getting the exchange control approvals. Not to say that Zimbabwe doesn't allow funds to be moved to pay school fees, things like that, and make other investments, but the companies and entities that are listed there did so without getting the appropriate clearances and approvals by the central bank. But you do make a very valid point, and I think it speaks to the lack of confidence that people have in this economy, which is why perhaps we've seen these movements of vast amounts of money, Rama.
Indeed. So let's look at the numbers in a little more detail, though. How are these estimates arrived at? Because we keep hearing a lot of interesting numbers here. $827 million outstanding. But how do we know that all of that cash is illegally held outside the country's borders?
Well, Rama, I think what we've seen the government do here is go to the central bank and get a list or a database of all the exporters that they know and try to find out if indeed all their paperwork is in order and if they've made the necessary remittances in terms of bringing that money back. And that, I think, makes up the largest number and the bulk of companies that are in category one. I think they've also gone to banks and asked them to look at, international transfers, money coming out of the country, going out of the country rather, and some of the transactions that have been flagged there. But certainly there's no way of being able to quantify some of the funds that have left the country as physical hard cash. We know before we had the cash crisis here, the cash challenges that we face here, people could withdraw as much as $5,000 from an ATM, and that kind of money could have crossed the borders as hard cash, and so it's difficult to quantify how much money was actually taken out in that manner. So it's a tricky situation and a very difficult task that the government is trying to do here in terms of trying to recover this money. Very hard to know how much, and also perhaps other ways in which this money could have left. So 800 million is officially what is still outstanding, but there could be a lot more, Rama.
Indeed, we'll leave it there for the time being. Thank you for the update. That's Farai Mwakutuya there live from the Zimbabwean capital, Harare.